So I'm going to kind of talk about two things today. The first one and the main one being Canvas collaborations and how you can put that tool to use. The beautiful thing about this is it can be initiated from the instructor into things. So you can establish collaborations as an instructor and put people into it. And I'll show you what this whole collaboration thing is. Or students can create these things. We're also going to talk about groups. Canvas groups is something that, at least in my experience and observing how Canvas is being used, we're not using enough here. Because instructors have the ability to create group sets for their students to do this collaborative work, and students also have the ability to create groups. And so I know our time is limited, but I'm going to try and fly through just to show you these tools, kind of give you a quick intro on what they look like. So I'm just in a test course here, and collaborations can be found right on your course menu, okay, in your course navigation here. And when you go into this, you're going to see, as an instructor, you can see all of the collaborations. You can visit all of the different collaborations that have already been established. So you can see that there's collaborations that I've established, and there's also collaborations that I've had students establish. You have the ability to view all of them. Okay? And so you might use collaborations for like shared notes. You might have the whole class invited into them, and they can all contribute to the notes. When you create a collaboration, it's right here in the plus collaboration, and there's three different ways that you can create a collaboration: a Word document, a PowerPoint presentation, or an Excel spreadsheet. You get to establish that. Whoever's creating it gets to establish it. You can also choose to make your collaborations be in Google, but since we're a Microsoft school, it makes more sense to have them establish those in Microsoft. So anyways, let's say I wanted to establish just a Word collaboration. First of all, I can choose, as you can see here. And I can just say, hey, week 4 notes. Now, obviously, your imagination can run wild on how you could put these to use, how you could have your students put them to use. Maybe you have them doing a presentation. You could establish for each group that's presenting a presentation for each group, and you, as an instructor, could then keep tabs on each group's progress with that. Keep in mind that you can see within the presentation who is doing what work, who's made what changes. You can track the changes. So that might be helpful when you're talking about, well, who's contributing, if there is an issue with that. So you can give it a little description. And now you're ready to decide who you want to add to this particular collaboration. You can add the entire class, your entire roster, just by clicking on all of them. Or maybe you don't want all of them in there, and so you can go back and you can remove some of those individuals. You just want these 4 people to work on this particular document. You click Save, and just like that, all of those individuals will get a notification, or they will see this collaboration now in their collaboration area. Okay, so you see that I created that week 4 notes. If I were to go over to my student user, you can see that that collaboration that I just established is now showing up for that student as well. Okay, and I can keep tabs on it as an instructor. If a student creates collaboration, so you can see I'm in the student area right here, they also have the ability to create a collaboration. If they do that, you as the instructor still can view it in your collaboration area within the course. So they can go through just like I just showed you, and they have access to add, hey, Cedric and Frodo, we need to work together on a presentation. They can establish that, and that's going to generate a PowerPoint presentation for them, an online PowerPoint presentation. So if I open up that collaboration that I just created, it's going to open up in PowerPoint. All of those other students that have that I added to it can open this up, the same document or the same presentation as well, and start working on it. So it's a beautiful thing for an online class, for any type of class really. So if I go back to my area here and I refresh this, you see class presentation right here that was created by a Maryland student. I can open that up and I can view exactly what they're going to see, which at this point is blank. There it is. Nothing. But you can keep tabs on what it is that they're doing. You can also remove them. Okay? You can go through and edit. So if you say, oh, you know, I don't like that you didn't include somebody else, not that you're playing that game, or I'd like you to have somebody else in your group, you can add a collaborator to even a student-generated presentation or spreadsheet or document. You can also establish groups within your course or courses, and you can just straight up assign a presentation. So maybe you're going to be doing an in-class presentation. Instead of going through and assigning each student individually or as a group, you could have pre-established groups within your courses that I'll show you how to set up here in a second. But you can see I have 3 student groups established here. And so we're going to give a presentation in class. We're going to call it the EdTech presentation. And group 1 is going to do that one. And just like that, all of those students that are in that EdTech Dialect group 1 were just assigned that collaboration. Okay. As far as creating the groups, that's something that you're going to do in the people area. And so I'll jump over that right now because, and I can come back to collaborations if you have any questions. But as far as creating groups in your courses, you're going to go to the people area. And right now you'll just see this roster, but as you add groups, you'll get different tabs up here. So to establish a group, you have to create a group set. So this group set might be something like, hey, project 1, it's going to be a group project. Project 2. Okay, so anytime that you do group work, you can establish a group. If you want to recycle and keep using the same groups, you can do that as well. So the group set, in this case, it's EdTech Dialect is one that I already have. If I wanted to establish a new group out of that, once I go in there, I can create additional groups within that group set. Okay. If I want to see who's in these particular groups within this group set, all I have to do is click on the down arrow and I can see the students that are in there. If I want to do some rearranging, I can do that simply by clicking and dragging. Okay. You can also establish group leaders. Okay. So you click on their name and you can set them as the group leader. Once you have created and put students in a group, they will get a new button on their global navigation. So if you look way over here, I now have a groups area on the global navigation. As the instructor, you can pop in and view all of these different group areas. Okay, so for example, I have groups established. Okay, and if I want to see all those groups, I can view all the groups that I have. So let me visit this EdTech Dialect group. All right, this is part of that test course. So let's say you're in your English course or your early college course or your biology course. You can go in and see all those groups within your course. Each group, when you create it, is given a group area. So while this looks like my class right here, this is actually kind of a class within a class. Each group, when you establish it, is given their own announcements area, wiki or pages area, and then obviously the people area with who's in their group. A place to have discussions. If they wanted to have discussions about whatever topic they're working on, you could assign that, or you could let students create their own discussions. A place to store files, and they can also create collaborations right here. So they could generate their collaborations right within this group area, and you can still manage them as the instructor. Lastly, when we talk about, when Michelle mentions it's not so much a chat feature, it's just a document area, we also have this conferences area, and that's a place where they can actually set up a place to have a chat or even a video chat to discuss what it is they're working on. So if you have an online course or your students don't have time to meet face-to-face, they could schedule a time to set up a conference, almost like a Skype meeting, where they could discuss what it is that they're working on, even while they're working on it. So a lot of tools, and this is right within the group area. This is their own little group area. As the instructor, if I want to pop around to those other groups I've set up, I can go to the other group and I can view their progress, what they're working on, what they're doing. Do they have collaborations and stuff like that? So I can view what's going on within each group. So the first thing you're going to do, collaborations are kind of aside from groups. I just wanted to show you the functionality of setting up those groups because with a collaboration you have the ability to create collaborations for groups. So groups are something, like I said, I'm back to the main course area now. Groups are something that you're going to set up from the people area. From the student side of things, if they wanted to generate a group, they can. Okay, so I'm in that class. If I go to the people area, remember this is the student view. I'm in this course now as the student. They have the ability to click on the Groups tab here, and they have the ability to create their own group if they wanted to do that. So maybe you assign something, maybe it's just something that, you know, they have a group of students in the class that they want to work with. They can actually establish a group on their own right from here, okay, which can be very, very useful. If I go back to the instructor view, because there's a couple things with establishing the groups. I'm just going to establish a new group set. So let's say we're going to do a new project. I want to do entirely new groups. Let's call this Project 1. Okay. So you have some options when you're setting up your group. Okay. So for this particular project, maybe I want the students to sign up for groups on their own. I don't want to pick them myself. I want them to be able to pick their groups. They knew who they work well with. And I would check that and allow them to sign up for their own groups. Okay. If I don't want to give them that ability, then I can go ahead down here to group structure and I can have it automatically set up the groups randomly. Okay. And I can say how many groups I'd like to have set up within the course. So maybe you have 25 students and you want 5 groups of 5. Okay. Then you're just going to go ahead and set up 5 groups. Or maybe you want to set them up manually. You can still do those 5 different groups. But you say, I'll create groups manually, and from there, you have your list of students, and it's time to start drafting your groups. All you have to do from here is create a group. So within Project 1, we have Group 1. And we're going to create a second group, Group 2. And from here, we can start adding students to the different groups. If at any point you need to go through and change them, like I showed you, you can do that. Okay, oops, just like that. I have, as you can see, created these groups. Okay, if I need to delete a group, I can go ahead and delete that group. If I need to change that group, I can drag and drop and change that group. Somebody's not getting along, Tommy Knocker doesn't get along well with Kevin Wagenmaker, just like that, we can make the change. These group areas will now show up in their group area on the global navigation. So that's a group. The group set can sometimes be hard to wrap your head around. Like, I just want to create a group. Well, you have to create a group within a group set. So you can use that same group set throughout the entire term and just change your groups around. Who's in the groups, just like I showed you how you can move the students. Or for each different project that you're working on, you can do a different group set. You can also establish your groups when you're setting up an assignment. So if I were to go to an assignment or a discussion, same thing. So let me go down here. I actually have an assignment here that I'm going to use. I have this week 3 assignment. And so if I go to the assignment settings, you will see if I go down to the bottom, we have the option to set this as a group assignment. You may have seen this before. Okay, so if I say this is a group assignment, right from here, I can assign this to a group set. So those groups that we establish within the group sets, okay, just like that, I can assign this assignment to be a group type assignment, and it'll get assigned to each group. From here, you have a checkbox that will allow you, if you choose, you can assign a score, and it will go to the entire group. Or if you check this box, you can grade each student differently. So if you have a student within that group that you know slacked, or you're worried they're going to slack off, or for whatever reason, maybe you just want to grade each student individually within their groups, if you check this box, you will have the ability to do that. If you don't check this box, whatever score you give when assigning a score will go to everybody within that group. So yeah, collaborations will allow you to designate documents, spreadsheets, and PowerPoints for a couple students or a group of students or the entire class if you want to do like shared notes within your class. Collaborations within groups are just for those groups. Students can generate collaborations on their own, but you as the instructor will always be able to view those collaborations. Now, if they create those collaborations straight up within OneDrive, obviously it's not technically a collaboration, then you would have to ask for access. But as long as they're creating these collaborations within Canvas, keep in mind those collaborations are in Microsoft Office, then you will have access to view what it is that they're doing, if that's what you want. Groups tie in seamlessly with that, and the fact that you can assign those collaborations to the groups and just use the group area for whatever it is that you're working on as far as projects go. But those are the two collaborative tools that I think are underutilized here. Just because I haven't focused on them a ton, but it's something that I think that has utility in a lot of different ways. And I'll let you run wild with that idea. I'm just here to support it. So conferences is a place where you can set up meetings. You can set these up, and students can also set these up. Much like collaborations, you just click on Add a Conference. It's run by a program called Big Blue Button. This is actually like a conferencing program, much like you would think of Skype and stuff like that. So when you go to set one up, you can give it a name. And you can set the duration if you'd like. If you want to record it, you can, but we don't have the paid version of this, so it's only going to be available for 14 days, which is great if you have a student that misses class. Hey, you got 14 days to check out this recording or check out this meeting that you missed. But if you want to record it, you have to obviously check on that. If you want to invite all class members, obviously you just leave this checked by default, but maybe you just want to have a meeting with Thomas Turkey and Susie Q. In that case, you click on their names. You can set the time or no time limit if you don't want to. Maybe you're going to have a 2-hour meeting. And then you just click on Update. And right here it establishes the conference. Okay? When you're ready to have the conference, as the conference creator, you'll have a Start button. You go in and click Start. And this will take a moment to set up. And once it does load, you'll see that you and your students will have an area. It will show who's in the meeting. You'll have the ability for yourself or whoever else to display their webcams. And just like that, you are ready to conference. That concludes our EdTech Dialect for this week. Next week, we do not have one. This is the end of the fall term EdTech Dialect, so stay tuned for what's coming up in the spring term.